Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you guys had a great week. We had a pretty good week. We didn't really do anything too exciting or out of the ordinary. Like last week, lots of park visits, lots of library visits. However, today's episode is coming to you much later than normal. It is the evening. We spent all day today at my mom's for my birthday dinner. So yeah, Avery is over there having a nice little sleepover. I am home. I just got home. It is hot as insert whatever descriptive phrase you want here because, oh my god, today is so hot. I feel like I'm melting. I just got home. Air conditioning is on. If I'm a little extra glowy looking right now, that is why. But yeah, I wanted to sit down and show you some of the progress on the projects that I've made this week. So what do I have for you? I have basically that. I have progress on 3 projects that I worked on. No new projects and no finished projects. We are also joined by a Mr. T. As soon as I got home and set the table up, he knew it was happening, so he came up to join me. He's being very good right now, so we will see how that goes. But yeah, I'm going to take a quick sip of some water because I want to show you my new mug. So like I said, I just came back from my mom's. We were celebrating my birthday. And thank you, Bern. So Bern is my godmother, and I know she watches, and she sent over this mug for my mom to give me. So I think this is just, it's too cute. So this is what I will be drinking from today. And like I said, I've got some water because it's freaking hot. But yeah, we are going to start with, I think, the project that has changed the least, and then I will show you the other 2 projects. So the first project I'm going to show you today is the progress I've made on my taffeta top. And here it is here, and where the little narwhal is where I was last week. So I've been able to put on about that, maybe an inch and a half or so. There are a lot of stitches on this project, but I'm finding it's actually working up pretty quickly. I'm working on it with some wool silk blend. It's a sport weight and it is on larger needles and there are eyelets, so when I do get to work on this I find it goes pretty quickly, and the pattern is very simple. It's a very memorizable eyelet pattern every like 5 rows or so. So this has been a really good project to bring around and just knit on whenever I can, especially if I'm knitting on it when I don't have to worry about talking to anyone. If I know I'm going to be around other people, then I have been bringing other projects. So I think that's all I have to say about that. I was just able to put maybe 2 inches on that. I did say last week that I was going to try and check my gauge, or at least check the width that I have on my piece of fabric compared to the schematic in the pattern, because I am using much larger yarn than the pattern calls for. I am using larger needles. The pattern calls for lace weight. I'm using sport weight, but I just haven't gotten around to it, and frankly I'm not going to be too concerned about that. I'm just happily working on it. It's basically a big rectangle with a slit that you do some sort of twisty thing and seamy thing with, so I've decided I'm just going to make it work. So the next thing I have to share with you is the progress that I have made on my July Desert Vista Dye Work socks. And I think last week I had just finished the increases for the heel, and I was going to start working back and forth towards the decreases and down towards the foot. And I have finished the first sock. So this is it here. The colorway that I'm working on is Big Bang, inspired by the Big Bang Theory show. I absolutely love this colorway. The colors together are so much fun. For the pattern, I am basing this loosely on the Jangles pattern that I did earlier in the year, and I have since kind of modified into my own vanilla pattern that works for me. So it's not exactly the Jangles pattern anymore, but I especially refer to that pattern for this kind of triangular heel shaping, which I have found works really well for me and fits my foot really well. So basically I'd start with 81 stitches and I do a 2x1 rib for about 25 rows or so. I dig to have about a 5-inch leg, and then I start the increases for the heel, and then once I get to the number I need between the markers, you start doing your decreases until you get down to your original number, and then I like to do some extra decreases to get my foot down to an even smaller number than my leg. Now I will say with this one, I did mention last week how I was going to do some yarn management, so usually once I get to the point where I'm joining in the round again, I have a look at what color I left off at, and then I try and find that color again so that the striping sequence remains intact. Well, I made a slight misjudgment with this sock, and you can see it on the other side. So when I started working on the one side for the heel, most of the round was the green. So when I joined again, I just had it in my head that I was starting again with the green. And it wasn't until I had kind of got it going and I had done a couple rows that I was like, oh, I should have started with the purple, because there was just a few stitches at the end of the row before I had started the heel shaping that were purple. So I didn't want to rip back, and I know this would drive some people crazy, and honestly it drives me a little bit crazy. So what I think I'm going to do is just take some green from what I wound off and just kind of duplicate stitch over that so it's not so noticeable. I think we were out and about. I didn't want to rip back. I just wasn't in the mood to do that. So I will go back and try and fix this later. I'll show you next week how that goes. But yeah, I finished the first sock. And then what do I say when you're knitting a pair of socks? When you finished your first sock, always cast on the second sock right away, and then you won't have a second sock syndrome. So that is what I did. And this is the progress that I have on my second sock. So just the wee little start of a second sock. I am working on my ribbing, but I did do what I normally do with my striping socks, and I rewound the cake so that the color sequence was going in the opposite direction. So I'll show you here. And I did wind off just a tiny little bit so that I could start with the green again, but as you can see, the stripes are going in the opposite direction. I just think it's really fun. I think it's just kind of a neat touch. It makes the socks look just a little different, but they're still obviously a pair. It's just something that I really, really like to do. So that is my progress on my July Desert Vista Dyeworks socks. I don't think I'll have a problem finishing them for the end of the month. This is what I've been taking to the library and to the park with me, and we go there pretty much every single day, and we are there for many, many hours. As long as Avery finds new people to play with, we could be there for 5 hours. So I get lots of knitting time on those socks. So the next project I'm going to share with you is the progress that I have made on Dennis's socks. And I think last week I just showed you the wee little cast on of these socks. I am making them with some Regia Perfect yarn, and I was really excited to get these started because I've never worked with the Perfect yarn, and I really wanted to see, you know, what all the fuss was about. A lot of people seem to like this yarn. So I will show you the balls. So this is the patterning that my sock should look like, and the basis behind this yarn is that if you see this yellow strand, that yellow yarn kind of separates two sections of yarn in the one ball that basically equal two identical socks. So when you start, it starts with the yellow. You pull all the yellow off until you get to the first color, which is this dark brown for the cuff. You start your sock, cast on your cuff, knit, 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 knit. The yarn will automatically change when it gets to the leg, so you just keep knitting, knitting, knitting. The yarn will automatically change again when you get to the heel, so when it gets to the dark brown again, you start doing your heel. When the yarn changes again, you're doing your foot, and then the yarn will change again for the dark brown for the toe. So last week I showed you, like I said, the little wee cast on, and I think I said that hopefully if I have time, I will kind of get into the patterning that you guys can see what the sock or what the yarn patterning is starting to look like. Well, I don't know how this happened, but I finished the entire first sock. I have to say this yarn was really, really fun to work with, and it worked exactly like it said it would work. So I cast on, I did my rib, I just kept knitting, 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 knitting until the yarn changed. So I didn't even have to think about it, I didn't have to count rows, I just kept knitting. Once it changed to this yarn, I just kept knitting, 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 knitting until it changed to the heel. And I did a German short row heel, which worked really well for the amount of brown yarn that there was. You can see that after I finished the heel, there was just a couple of more rows of brown left, but it just kind of blends into the sock. And then it just changed back to this, and I knit, 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 knit. And by the time it turned back to the dark brown, I was at the point where I could start my toe. So I started my toe, I finished my toe, I cast off, I kitchen and everything. And I just thought it might be interesting to show you how much of the dark brown was left after I cast off for my socks. So these are for my husband. He has about a size 7 men's. We have the same size feet. So if you're knitting for a 7 men's or a 8.5, 9 women's, this is how much yarn of the brown you have left until you can see here it's starting to turn back to the yellow. So you could knit a larger foot still with this yarn. Yes, so there's a pretty sizable amount of the brown left. And then it turned back into yellow, and I thought I'd also show you, this is how much yellow you pull off before it went back to the dark brown to start the second sock. So that is what I have done. I have cast on the second sock. I am just working through the cuff right now, so I'm just knitting, 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 knitting in rib until I see the yarn change, and then I will work in stockinette for the whole leg. But it's a fun knit. It's fun to see how it changes, and I also had a lot of fun as I went because it really does exactly match this patterning. So as I was knitting, I was comparing my sock to these pictures to see, okay, how close am I? How much farther do I have left? How many more little, design repeats do I have before the foot starts or before the toe starts? So it was kind of like counting down. So I've really enjoyed this. Obviously, I finished one sock. I didn't expect to finish one sock. And so yeah, I think I might actually finish these by the end of the month, which is pretty awesome. So I think that is all the knitting that I have for you today. I know it's been a short episode. I don't really have anything else to share with you. I don't have any little extras this week, and it is stinking hot. I want to go finish my drink, maybe have a popsicle, cool down a little bit. I will try and add some of the clips of Avery's activities this week. A lot of you seem to really enjoy that. But other than that, that is it for this week. Hopefully I will have a little bit more next week. I hope you have a fabulous weekend with lots of crafting, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Hi, my name is Avery, and I just came back from Discovery Club, and we did a little thing, and Zobo is the robot, and then he is coded. Every square makes him do something else. Something. And I made something for my mom too. This is it. You can read it. Okay, and it says, look on the back. And it says, hi, I love you. Happy birthday, Mom. Because it's like her birthday today. And I know how old she's turning. 20 or 39. I think 39. Bye. See you tomorrow or next time. Hi, my name is Avery, and I just came back from Nature Club. And here's what I made. I went outside and got some things, and then put it on paper, and then put it on. And I made this. And I found a cool rock that looked like a crystal, though. So I think that's all for today. See you next time. Bye. Hi, my name is Avery, and I just came back from art club, I think. And I did a walk, and this is what I did. And there's another thing, a rainbow with me under it. So that's me, that I made, and look at my kitty. And I made those boots for her, and I got a blister from climbing, so I'm wearing a mitt. And that Mommy cut it off, the fingertips, and that's what these boots are made out of. And the extra one, the fifth one, is on one of my LOLs. So thanks for watching. Bye.